Thank you, Angel, and Heidi ho, everyone. How you doing? Happy hump day to you. More questions than answers still, I'm afraid, on the US dollar. However, technically, I'm seeing some things that suggest, in fact, a strong suggestion that the Fed and the market reacted, the market reacted a little bit too strenuously to the Fed. Not conclusive yet, but it's certainly looking that way. Let me show you why that seems to be the case. All the pairs that I'm looking at, euro, pound, Aussie, and I haven't looked at the rest, frankly, but we can certainly do that, are showing me exactly the same thing. So that thing, if you like, is an inverted head and shoulders, and pretty much playing out at the moment. We've got clear inverted head and shoulders on pound US dollar on the 4-hour chart. It's as evident on any chart as this one. The one thing that is noticeable is that the neckline, be it here or be it there, choose your poison, has in fact been broken and retested. And right now we're seeing pound US dollar take that high on, that higher high, in which case you would be looking for this level here, I would imagine, in a fairly quick succession, and maybe a pullback then, and maybe on with the job a little bit further. I'm on board with it, but yeah, I really need to see a strong setup at a decent level. That level there spooks me a bit. How far away from it are we? 4-hour chart. Interesting. I don't really have a setup anyway, but I can totally see what's going on here. So inverted head and shoulders, break the neckline, retest the neckline, and that's why the bulls are having a crack here. The other way to look at this one, of course, there's generally more than one way to look at things, and such is the case. This is a clear potential false break of that resistance trade line. So where do you go from there? Well, like I said, there's still more questions than answers as far as I'm concerned on the US dollar. But that to me is very, very interesting. And should that candle close as is in, how long have we got to go in this candle? 2 hours, 2 hours and 8 minutes. Is that right? I can't remember what time this actually closes. And my timer isn't actually on this chart. Hang on a sec. 2 hours. Yeah. Okay. 2 hours and 1 minute. So interestingly, euro dollar is not the same because it hasn't come back below the neckline. So where do you go, guys? Where do you go? Hello, John. Hello, Paul P. Let's have a look at the pound for a breakout anyway and see what we've got. But again, you'll see clearly on this chart that we do have that inverted head and shoulders neckline break and neckline retests. Interesting. Or is it? I'm kind of going with the opposite from a tradability point of view because I can't see a way in here, that's all. Maybe if we get a false break of, I don't know what, a resistance, support trade line here or something, then I can trade it. But at the moment, it's a no. Now, can we trade the breakout is the question. So let's have a look at that on the hourly chart. And if I reduce that down a little bit, you can see past 48 hours, we've had a range that's not particularly evident from a box range point of view, but there it is. And its limits are, I actually don't mind this as a range. Why? It's 100 pips. I like it because if this is to play out as an inverted head and shoulders, then we'll be up here somewhere. Not necessarily in a hurry. We'll struggle to get through that level, for instance. But if that's not the case, then this right shoulder gets taken out and we have a look at this low. So it's not the worst as far as I'm concerned. But the question now is going to be, is this a false break of resistance? And am I going to trade it? Is the next question. Look, I don't like being near the top of the range, I've got to say. But what I would say is if we do get a little bit of a pullback into here, I may place that order. So I'm not going to place it now, but if we do get a pullback into here, I will look to place that order. So it'll be 5 pips above the high of that candle and 3 pips below the low of that candle. So I'll keep my eye on that. I want to investigate this inverted head and shoulders a little bit further and see which is the best of them if I am to play this. The Aussie. Not really that evident on the Aussie, is it? Big inverted head and shoulders here, but yeah, I think we're stuck in between the pivots, aren't we? Do I really want to have a look at that? Answer no, not right now. So I'll leave the Aussie. I don't think that's a prime contender. The pound, however, is, as I said on the 4-hour chart, I'm definitely seeing an inverted head and shoulders and a break of the neckline and a retest of that neckline. But I've also noticed that we've snuck back underneath it. So that becomes extremely interesting. As I said, those of you just coming in the room, I'm repeating myself. I know for those who weren't, who were in the room at the time, but I'm seeing two cases here. One is for the long as an inverted head and shoulders break and retest of the neckline. The other is as a false break of this resistance area. And that's what I've been looking for to see if we can actually pick up if the US dollar is to remain strong, of course. And I'm not necessarily a fan of that. But I still think this can go either way. And we've missed the entry here on this one, of course, but not that there was an entry for me. We will see. I'm prepared to wait. And like I say, if there's a pullback to this trade line, then maybe we can place the long order. But there's also the chance that this will reverse now, or this 2-barrel move, if you like, will reverse now and go short with momentum. Very interesting. Euro dollar. Let me have a look at euro dollar. Where's that hiding? There it is. We spoke about this yesterday, didn't we? And said, what if this is the right shoulder of the inverted head and shoulders? Well, that turned out to be the case. And it didn't give me what I was looking for, which was a false break of this resistance trade line. Now, maybe that's yet to come. I don't know. But in true inverted head and shoulders fashion, we have indeed got all the parameters that we need to trade this, except one, and that's an entry. So we've got a left shoulder, we've got a head, we've got a right shoulder, we've got a clear and clean break of the neckline, and we've got a clear retest of that neckline. But similar to the Aussie, we're in between pivots here, and one signal's telling me, okay, bounce off the weekly pivot, go short. The other one's telling me break, retest, go long, and this is the case. So until I get that clarified, I'm guessing. Could I play an OCO? Maybe I could, but I think with the pivots where they are, you're likely to get a couple of false breakouts. And if you get a couple of false breakouts, that means you're taken into both trades. And do you really want to be there? Don't think so. So it is a little bit iffy. Let's have a look at something else, like maybe dollar CAD or something like that. Dollar CAD not showing us well, it is, I suppose. It is, yeah. Same thing upside down, of course, as you would expect. So where's the neckline here? You'd probably say there. So for mine, that hasn't been retested, though it is a clear break. I'd have to rule that one out as a reversal trade or trading the head and shoulders, because we need to see that retest and it's simply not there. Dollar yen, I'll just skip over that. I hate it. Dollar Swissy, same thing. Head and Shoulders, this one looks to have retested, and in fact, gone back above that neckline. This is a bit sketchy as well. Yeah, I'm going to have to say that's it. So we have had a break and retest of the neckline. That's interesting. We've also had lower low, lower high, lower low, potentially another lower high. This does look interesting. I'd have to put my stop there. So 32 pips, say, to 21. That's fine. What's wrong with that? Not a damn thing. All right, we'll have a crack at that. Just got to convince myself that's the neckline. That's the only thing. There's certainly none better. All right, we'll place a small, and I do mean small, stake on dollar Swissy short. Where are you? Be up here somewhere, of course. Right up the top. Okay. False break potential coming up on the hourly chart as well. That's interesting. Kind of like it from there, really. It's not really going through high. That's the only problem. But double cross on the daily pivot does look good on the hourly chart. We might have a look at that as well. But on the 4 hour, we will take that small trade. And oh, that was a little more interesting. Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit distracted there, seeing something else. Okay, so we're going to trade this bar here, or we're going to trade under this bar. So it's a breakout trade, really. And we're going to put our stop loss above here. I'll give you those levels. We'll be entering at 0.9169. 0.9169. This is dollar Swissy. It's on the daily, isn't it? No, 4 hour, H4. Sell at 0. Pardon me, 91 something, 69 was it, or something like that? It was. Stop loss will be at above this bar by 3 or 4 pips. 91.95 sounds good. 0.9195 and TP1. We got a good lesson in taking TP1 last night, didn't we? Those of you who took Aussie Yen. TP1 has got to be weekly pivot-ish. I'll go a little bit above the weekly pivot if it'll tell me what the level is. Let's go between DS1 and the weekly pivot. So let's go there, 91.50. That'll do us. Okay, 0.9150. There we go. Now, those of you who aren't, grab a beer time. Sounds good, John. Bit early for you, though, probably. Oh, no, it's not. It's 5 o'clock somewhere here. What was I saying? Those of you who don't know how I actually manage these trades, just warming up, cool. It is exactly the same thing every single time. If I give you a TP1, it means that at that level, I will take half of my stake. I'll bank half, in other words. And excellent timing, Angel. I'll get to that in just a tick. I bank half of it, and then I moved my stops to exactly where I took profit. So the difference between 91.50 and 91.69 is 19 pips. I would move my stops 19 pips above my entry level. Okay, so that immediately gives me a free trade at that point. And if it goes further, then that's where you make your profit. You're not going to make any profit on TP1, right? Its only really purpose is to get you safe in the market. That's the only purpose of TP1, because it does, I was about to swear, it does wreck your reward to risk up quite substantially. Hi, Lewis. Yeah, get into it, mate. Ice cold beer. Why not? I'm all for it. So if you're going to follow my trades, you have to do that, right? Or don't complain if it goes against you after it's hit TP1, you haven't taken profit, one or the other. Now, case in point, not that anyone complained, and I hope you all did what you were supposed to do yesterday, was with this trade, right? On Aussie yen, where we got into this short playing exactly what I was just saying. This bar here, we actually traded this bar here, this white bar. And guess where the daily pivot was? Right there. And as always, and Ash has been doing this in his new way of trading as well. As soon as he hits a support level, or he calls it, what do you call it, Ash? First
contact.
First contact. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's a must for me to take profit there. You've just absolutely got to. It's an untested daily pivot, number one. And number two, it is the daily pivot. So regardless of what you want to get out of the trade, that's all the market's prepared to give you. And that's all the market was prepared to give you yesterday. So for that reason, that's where I set my TP1 and took my TP1. But I've got to say this, and I did put it in the Telegram group, which is, thanks, Angel, for putting that link up there. If you aren't in the Telegram group, you wouldn't have got my update, which said I, on two accounts, two different brokers, one hit TP1, the other one didn't. But I took TP1 because it had actually gone through the target. So it went to 81.78.4 or something like that. Sorry, 82.78.4. Yes, as you can see on my chart there. But it didn't trigger on this particular broker, didn't trigger the TP1. So automatically take it. Then one of two things I do then. If I'm still there, and it stayed there forever, right? You had 100,000 minutes and 10 seconds to actually take that TP1. So there's really no excuse if you didn't. So please, every single time I give you a TP1, that's exactly what you need to do if you're going to follow my trades and consistently make money out of them. Otherwise, you're going to see a lot of that, right? You're going to see a lot of that happen after TP1, especially on an untested daily pivot, which is the whole reason why you would take TP1 there, because it's very good at doing it. Ash, I've got far more questions than answers still on what the dollar's going to do. But I also see some very strong potential reversals, like head and shoulders and inverted head and shoulders are everywhere on currency pairs.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a specific currency yesterday, which was the crypto market, to see if there was a potential reversal in that. And only because you've mentioned the pattern, there was a inverted head and shoulders on cryptos last overnight, actually, and it's really about follow through, isn't it? I mean, they do create an opportunity. I'm usually unlikely to enter anything unless I can get that right shoulder. I don't like trading necklines, but if I can get the right shoulder, then I'm interested. But
well, we both got it wrong yesterday because remember, I think it was one of the last things we said. We were looking at the euro dollar chart.
Yes,
and we were noticing that there was an inverted head and shoulders forming, right shoulder. What I think it was in the 4 hour, wasn't it? Yeah. And we were we were speculating, what if this is the right shoulder? Should we trade it?
Yeah.
and we both said looks to be going to the downside to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, what it did is now history. And this is looking good. I want this to snuggle under here, then come back and retest the confluence. Then I'm short euro dollar, but we'll see if that pans out as well.
Yeah, it looks like a decent little trend line there, doesn't it, from the lows going up to.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, absolutely right, mate. And I suppose this is the danger of just trading a pattern without anything else in your favor. Well, obviously this pattern would have worked out, but I was getting sell signals on the euro dollar, and this morning I'm getting signals that suggest that the dollar may just ease back a little bit. But given the environment right now, I think going long dollar does seem to be the most sensible way forward. There's been more pushes with equities, which again I find that quite interesting. And one of the biggest fears that Shukri touched on yesterday was that if the stock market has a crash, then the crypto market is likely to have a crash because of the correlation seems to be pretty strong, and it makes a lot of sense because if you think about both of them being in the risk asset category. It would suggest if one, if the stock market is coming down, then people are getting a bit more fearful, and then they're starting to go to the staples, and staples in the stock market are things like food and energy, rather than if you've got less cash, are you really going to go out and take that risk? Probably not, but you are going to go and buy beer, and you're going to go and buy cigarettes, and you're going to go and buy food, and you're going to go and buy energy, and anything that you need starts to come into focus at that point. But the dollar is going to play a part in that. And if the dollar does continue to stretch its legs to the upside, then I can see global equities coming down. And I think it's going to be a bit of a timing thing. And we're at one of those sort of situations where you either try and sort of carve out a position, or you just let the next phase kind of show itself, because we've only just had that announcement in the last few days. And if nothing changes, then I would have thought a strong dollar would be the play. And you can see it here with the pound yen. The confidence has come back in. One thing that happened recently with the UK is that they have borrowed more money because I think the timeline for to ease the lockdown has now changed, and because it's changed, then more money needs to be borrowed. So we are starting to see maybe just a bit more confidence with the UK economy still stepping in. So a lack of fear is providing the yen being a bit of a hurdle of a trade. And I was watching it for weeks with the Aussie yen, and now, I mean, that is a hell of a bounce back.
Hell of a bounce back, isn't it? Straight back to the range and inside it now.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and just updating that weekly trade, I also bought this back, as you can see on that chart.
Yeah.
So even if that stop loss is taken out, I'll do okay on the position. But hopefully you guys went with me on that.
Yeah, nice hedge, mate. Really nice hedge. It's difficult, isn't it? Because there's no reason to suggest that the pound is just going to continue to rocket to the upside after we get to the top of that range. There's a suggestion that we get there, and it's kind of. And this is the other sort of aspect of this, is that the Fed have announced that there will be interest rate hikes, but they're not here yet. So will there be this kind of mindset that we can squeeze a little bit more out of this? The money hasn't changed yet. There's going to be a lot of people that kind of went straight in knee-jerk reaction and started to position themselves. And if they're positioning themselves in a small way, it's probably going to end up being a clever play, because what people will start doing now is effectively dollar cost averaging in the direction of travel of what the Fed has now suggested, which is stronger dollar and potentially weaker equities, maybe even stronger yen as well.
Did you, on that subject, did you listen to Powell?
What last night?
Yeah.
No, mate, I didn't. No, I didn't. What was said?
I didn't hear it, but again, I've read the headlines or the take from it.
Yeah, yeah.
He he as far as I can tell, said what I believed was said in the statement,
Yeah.
or not said in the statement, previously stated that the inflation story was still in a transient
Right.
scenario.
Right.
So again, that adds to the confusion.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's probably what we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
With I don't know, it's so hard to put a line through, and that I've still got more questions than answers. But it does appear to me that the market may respond today.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the FTSE is actually pretty stationary and pretty static, but I would prefer to buy the FTSE than sell it. So I am also looking at a risk on scenario and looking to buy rather than sell. It looks okay. It looks okay. We got a few stocks which are a little bit negative, but generally speaking, it's in pretty good shape. So I'd be much more interested in upside than downside. Maybe not much upside, but I am long the FTSE currently because of that very reason. And really the reason is that I wonder whether people went just a little bit early with what was being traded, and now Powell's kind of coming out, and you know. It's like he wants to make a statement and then row back on it. He must have known what when he said what he originally said, and his tone was quite conciliatory in the first thing. And I because I listened to it, and it wasn't the wording, it was the tone. The tone was quite conciliatory about the transient nature of the inflation, and it seems to me like now that he's just rowing back on that particular stance, and the market is effectively going, we've gone too early. We've gone too early with selling this stuff off. But there's obviously going to be an end to the bull run at some point in the near term. I would have thought, within the next 6 months, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it really. And I don't know if I've done my maths wrong here, but I think I have. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at all that we turn the year, and then next year is the time that we start to ease back in the stock market, and ease back for quite some time as well. I wonder whether it might be a slow grinding death for a little while until
Don't know.
out.
I remember last time that everyone was just praying PREYING on a reversal in the stock market, and it just kept making higher highs.
Yeah, mate. I remember that too. Yeah. It was very frustrating.
And then bang.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I suppose if you've got that dollar cost averaging kind of methodology, then you would have been okay in the end. But because I went through that, and it was sweaty for a long time. But if you believe that the interest rates are going to get raised, and you think that the dollar is now going to start to strengthen, you can start to add positions, but very, very small positions. And then if it comes back down again, then you add some more. If that's the asset class that you think is going to get affected in a year's time, because they're not trading for today. As I say, that the move and the interest rate hasn't happened yet, but they are possibly starting to position themselves. Traders are probably starting to position themselves for a turn in the market at some point, which I think is coming. And the Nasdaq also fascinates me because the Nasdaq continues to make fresh highs, and it just kind of smacks of a bit of a blow off top, where there is just that last grab, of making the money, get some people involved in the market just so we can kind of dump our positions off. Now, I don't know when that's going to come.
I would only too well.
Yeah, but it is a technique that traders use, and it's almost possibly what's been going on with a crypto market, where the market has been pushed down, get people out, sell us their positions nice and cheap, and then we'll have enough liquidity to then trampoline it back to the upside. And it may not happen, of course, but the way I'm personally playing the crypto market now is with a bit of dollar cost averaging and without leverage. I don't believe in using leverage with this kind of technique, but I'm quite keen on this area. and I'm also keen at 20,000 on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 30,000, 33,000, a bit of a 10 to 15% hopped in the end yesterday. But I'm keen on it. I like it. I still like I still like the use case. The fact that China are going after the crypto market, I think is I hate to use the word FUD because it's sort of another one of those kind of buzzwords that everybody's using, but I don't really understand what it
I haven't
means.
heard that yet. It must be UK buzzword, is it?
Oh, mate, it's everywhere at the minute. The FUD of this, the FUD of that, and you know, I do. Of course, I know what it means, but without any.
What's the D stand for?
What's that? Sorry.
What's the D stand for?
Oh, I mean, I have been told what it breaks down to, but it is the term effectively stands for for want of a better term, bullshit. When you break it down, you know, it's like the FOMO thing. You know, it took me or hodl. Took me a while
I kind of get the first two letters, but the third one's giving me a little bit of a bother. I'll Google it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Before you go on, just I'll give you a heads up. Tomorrow morning, and I may go down to smaller time frames. If this chart looks like this, then I'll place a short underneath. What is it, pound Swissy?
Yeah, I was analysing the Swissy last night actually. Quite interesting what's been going on with Switzerland. Their citizens have curbed back on their foreign investments, which this was something reported by the IMF that their citizens have curbed back on foreign investments, and the kind of headline of the article was the Swissy, is it a safe haven? Because we've seen the Swissy kind of strengthen significantly, but their kind of take on it was that it's not that the foreign investments are going into Switzerland to kind of stay safe. It's just that the outflows haven't been there. So it's, you know, it's one of those things that you can look at a chart and think that you've got the idea of why something's happening, but when you dig a little bit deeper, actually it might not be the case. So that you know, the Swissy may continue to be strong. Or may turn around, but it doesn't seem to be for the reasons we thought, and that might actually change the dynamic somewhat, because there's the foreign money isn't going in quite as heavily. Because one of the things that we should always look at when we're looking at a strength of a currency is the trade balance, and what you really want with a positive trade balance is for the imports to stay pretty flat, but the exports to be growing. So you can see that the country is growing, but when you've got imports which are fairly flat, but the exports decreasing, then it looks like there is a trade surplus, but almost for reasons that don't show growth and don't show risk. So you know, you kind of have to turn these things around a little bit and look at the dynamic of why you are getting the numbers that you're getting. You know, even though you can trust numbers because they're telling you the truth, there's still detail behind the numbers that you kind of have to dig a bit more on.
Yeah, well, it's generally the case with everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not one indicator is worth following. It has to. You've got to have layers. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Layer on layer on layer. I think EuroCAD, the two currency pairs I was really interested in this week were not the ones that had run away, but the ones that hadn't run away, as I said. EuroCAD and pound Swissy were those. Now, EuroCAD's already played out because it's gone from the top of the range to the bottom without telling me, I've got to say, prick of a thing. It was supposed to tell me that it was going in with the shape of a lower high. Didn't do that. So as always, I'll be looking to play it off the bottom with a higher low or false break or something of that nature. The false break, like I said, may already be in play on pound Swissy if it is to be false. If it's not to be false, then we should get a retest without coming back into that range. But like I said, I may even look to trade this one short. It'll depend how far it gets away. It's got an hour and a half to go. But if it looks like that, then we may look to play that short. We've got about 0.5 to 1 at this point to get our first take profit on the daily pivot. So that may well be a trade coming up. I won't be, of course, in the show, but I will put that in the Telegram group if I do play it. But I'll certainly be playing it tomorrow on the daily if we don't go up to here somewhere, of course. That will be untradeable. But at this point, we'll anticipate that this is a false break by placing an order underneath there. Okay, I wonder what gold's doing.
Oh, yeah, let's find out.
Do we know anyone who knows anything about it?
Did I hear my name ring?
Goldie, hello, Goldie.
Nice color combination, eh?
Oh, it's a bit cool in Sydney today, I've got to say.
Oh, I like that.
That's actually the color of the map around Sydney at the moment, where nobody's allowed to do anything.
And guess where I am?
Bang smack in the middle of it.
Bang in the middle of it. So we can't, it's school holidays and we can't even leave the Sydney metropolitan area at the moment. So that's interesting.
Oh, do you know what? Angel's been posting this for the last 3 days, and I'm starting to feel for her because she's doing all the work on her own, and it is just to kind of remind everybody to not forget to enter the euro dollar prediction competition for a chance to win $50 in ATW vouchers. Yeah, well done, Angel, for keeping remembering that. I don't think, have you mentioned that, Jeff?
I did yesterday. I think I did yesterday. I every now and then I think of it, but Angel's on the job. We're right now. Yeah. Angel, one thing. Do we know who won last week?
Yeah. I'm starting to wonder whether we even need to be here, mate. Angel could do.
now there's an idea. Sit here with a beer and just watch it all happen. Awesome.
I think Angel should be the host, and you and I should be trading buddies, kind of around it, and of course, and Shukri and John and our regular guests can be our Angels trading buddies.
Okay, what was the price? It's on Fusion, isn't it? We can work that out. I'm not going to get you to declare a winner, but I'll give you the price. Euro dollar.
It's down there, mate.
Daily chart on Friday.
Aren't you better off just using the weekly?
I could use the weekly.
Yeah.
Oh, Ash, I'm liking that background.
Yeah, I'm going to turn the camera over here. I forgot to do it earlier, but I'm going to turn the camera over here so it looks like we're getting filmed this way.
Yeah, well, okay. You'd better side, you know?
Yeah, this side, right? Yeah, I need to consider that.
The closing price, as far as I can see, Angel, was 1.18633. Gee, I think I had 632, bugger.
Won't be you then, mate?
No, it wasn't me. I didn't. Well, I'm not. Am we allowed to enter this?
Oh, yeah, I'm probably, sure we are.
We're probably encouraged to enter it, and we'll probably have to pay for
shoulders. Look at that one.
Sorry, mate. Oh, the head and shoulders. Like I said, they're everywhere today. Yeah. Absolutely everywhere.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? We got head and shoulders and then inverted head and shoulders on smaller term time frames, which is where this thing's really interesting right now. I hate that right shoulder, but and I would have missed that personally. I think would I have missed it? Yeah, I would have missed that for sure. Yeah, I would have missed that.
Which one would you take? This first one or the second one?
What? Well, on the with the right shoulder? I can only see one, mate. I mean, I've.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is still your head, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Poor bugger.
Yeah.
Tasmania, doesn't it?
Exactly right. Eh? If it's not the head, it's the scar. Yes, one of the.
There's not enough bars there for me to make that a right shoulder.
No, fair enough. All good.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk gold, mate, and talk gold and talk oil as well. There's a couple of things that I want to ask you,
Really can I just duck off for 2 seconds? I'll be straight back.
You duck off, mate.
Okay.
And it's really about oil more so than gold, really.
What do you want, gold or oil?
Well, I want to just ask you about oil because my first thing is my first question really to you is what's your kind of position and take on a possible turning in the global equity market? You know, do we start to come off a little bit? And do we start to see risk assets come off? And then do we see oil continue to push because people will then start to need to go into energy and sort of the defensive plays? And I suppose the question is, does oil actually play a part in a defensive portfolio, or is it very much a risk-on kind of commodity?
You wanted to ask a question. You just gave me 7.
Well, let me give you the big one is about is oil
Right.
is oil a protective commodity, or is it really risk on?
It's at the moment, I think at the moment you can see it's not doing anything, and there is no risk because it's just sitting there going sideways. Risk on and stuff, it doesn't matter.
It's really for the
However,
bigger
let's look at it in long term.
Yeah.
Long term, and we are going to be looking. I'm just trying to think, I'm saying like I'm repeating myself. Oh, TTR, you weren't in TTR. So the sentiment at the moment, there's 2 sides to the sentiment at the moment. Last time we've been speaking, we haven't necessarily discussed the supply side of this, and we've been focusing on the demand. The demand for oil at the moment, clean energy aside, let's just park that for a bit. But at the moment, we need oil as more planes are starting to fly and all the rest of it. Economies are opening despite the hiccups and the setbacks. There's that component. What has actually now been discussed a lot more is the supply side. Now, supply side, we had a little bit of a hiccup the other day when OPEC said it is actually going to let go of some of the restrictions and let it flow again. So we had a little bit more of a pullback on Monday afternoon, excuse me. But they are really keeping a closer handle on the supply side. What we are looking at here is sentiment amongst traders is that it is going to go to $100 a barrel.
Right.
Quite strongly. And I mean, we talked about this the other week where it was, you know, when it was at 30, it was like, oh, do you think it'll get to 50? And when it got to 50, it was like, oh, do you think it'll get to 70? And we've got here, it's stayed pretty firmly above 70 this whole week, as you can see. And I think it's going to just keep pushing up.
So what would we be looking for? Because you know, it seems like they've got a pretty good handle on controlling the price to the upside. But what would we be looking for to change that that perspective?
What would change it?
Yeah, I mean, would it be something happening, kind of a macro event in Iran? Would it be OPEC? I mean, are OPEC likely to change stance, or is that unlikely? You know, just not going to happen? No,
they're not going to change stance at the moment because they really need to push this. Actually, what I saw was an interesting play is that getting hold of pollution permits and selling those on the back market as well is something that people were saying, oh, you should really consider doing that as well, as oil will eventually no longer be a player. I hope I'm retired by that time anyway, by the way. But it's just seeing that how it goes. But, you know, why we have this big push up on Monday morning. Contracts. The contracts closed here on Monday morning.
Yeah.
So that was end of, there was all the adjustments that you get. It's not necessarily a macro event. It was a date, you know. Yeah. So when you've got that kind of thing happening, as well as, and OPEC have got a lot better, I've got to say, over the last 12 months, and we can see that quite clearly because the market, they learned. They knew that you just don't have a war with prices ahead of a pandemic. I think they worked that one out. Didn't go well for the boys. But, you know, when does it move? IEA, the International Energy Agency, had a really big impact when they were just trying to dictate to OPEC what was happening. Again, they didn't respond very well to that. What did they do? They turned around and said, we've got this under control. We're keeping a hold on supply. As your demand is going up, we're keeping a handle on supply, which was pushing our profits up. So in that regard, because it's such a controlled commodity, it's not like you've got, you know, 20 or 30 countries trying to take control of their exports and make their exports a bit. It's controlled. The whole this OPEC thing really controlled. And the other thing we had last week, obviously, was the abandonment of the QE pipeline from Canada down to Houston. That also had a really impact, and that was an immediate impact on the supply side, not necessarily the demand side.
So just to rewind a little bit, just for everybody in the room, when you talk about the contracts, we're talking about the futures contracts.
Yep.
That would have expired.
Yeah, they've got a date, and their expiration date was there. How do I know? Because I put a trade on, and I woke up and went, oh, got closed out again. So.
Right. So what people do is they're buying their oil for a delivery date in the future, and this was the last day that they could secure it at this particular price for a delivery date in the future.
Correct. Correct. And you also see it's a juggling of positions as well. So
do you tend to see with the futures contract, do you tend to see sort of like a lot of activity towards the end of the contract while people are rushing to say, okay, look, this is as good as it's going to get. Let's just buy in here. It's not coming down any further. Let's buy in here just to make sure that we can secure our position for a few years' time, a few months' time.
Yeah, considering the circumstances, there was obviously a rush on that, and it depends at the time, but you will always get volatility around that time. The same as in FX, you always get volatility around the last couple of days of the month. Again, does
the last day tell you more than most others in some respects? So if it's incredibly bullish, it's telling you that they believe that oil is going higher in future times. Well, otherwise, why would they rush to get it at this price?
Exactly.
So does it give you sort of like more of an indication the very last day?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? It's just like, God, we've got to get it at a better price, and obviously that pushed the price up.
Yeah.
And then you look at the rest of the week, and it's just like, okay, and it's just gone sideways.
Yeah.
Nothing exciting, just gone sideways. So
they don't need to commit now, do they? They've got their quota, and they sort of like they can wait now just to let it develop a bit. If it comes down, then they'll continue to buy it. But certainly that last bar suggests that they think oil is going higher. Those contracts, the contracts that were taken in the last day, they believe oil's going higher from this point. Otherwise, they would have waited a little bit longer.
So all the sentiment amongst the traders is up to $100 a barrel.
Yeah.
I know Jeff's going to roll his eyes at that, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about gold. Unless you got any questions about oil, Jeff.
On oil? No, I don't believe so. I'm tracking the CAD on mainly, and I think it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's just with a lot of stuff at the moment. And gold, holy moly! I'm just over. Do I need a new share on gold? Can you see that?
Is that gold? Yeah, we got gold.
Got gold. Okay, so gold is it's a funny thing, and I don't normally use Fibonacci, but I was trying to work out levels and stuff, and I put a fib on the weekly. So the weekly chart is my one that I keep prattling on about. Here's this fabulous huge bull flag, and I glanced initially after we had the retracement that was a little bit more than I bargained on. And I thought, oh, that's support. No, I'm thinking the green line there that it's come straight down and hit. Oh, there's something wrong there. Well, it can't be support. It can't be resistance because all my resistance bars are green. They should be red. And I looked again and I was like, oh, what's this? It is bang on 50 level.
Strong.
On that massive move.
Strong. That's a really strong level. So actually, Lewis brought something quite interesting, which we'll ask you about. But I like the look of the chart here because I've got an inverted head and shoulders, and I like the I really like that, and I like the fact that right shoulder is coming off a trend line as well, and the fact that you're telling us it's the 50, that does suggest some bullish price action.
Yeah.
It's also bang on the left shoulder level too, isn't it?
Exactly, mate. There's so much. There's so much. Is the word equilibrium here? I'm not sure, but there's there's a lot of really tidy levels going on here. Now you're
It's
aware.
gold, though, Ash. It is gold. We like tidy. We like neat.
Yeah. Well, it looks very tight. I mean, it looks like that neckline is almost right on the button. And it now looks like that right shoulder's right on the button as well. So it looks good to me, I have to say. I think technically speaking, it looks good. What is going to push it up is the question.
I'd love to say a seasonal bias. First week of July. First week of July through to the end of August is the seasonal bias for it to go long. So, you know, we said, looked for the retracement. We got the retracement. Like I said, it was bit more than I wanted, but that's okay. That's okay. We got it. And then I think Jeff, you said to me what to expect on Sunday. And I said, I think we're just going to go sideways, which is what gold tends to do. It has this upheaval and has a run or a big move, and then she goes sideways. And look at that. It's almost like it's almost lost a heartbeat, but you know, it's still just ticking away very quietly in the corner. Sorry?
How do you feel about the dollar?
Are
you bullish dollar or bearish dollar?
I'd like to see it just like disappear down off the bottom of the page myself.
I mean, only because you know, does this bring in some conflict for you where you're going, actually, I think the dollar's going to go higher, and how can I say that gold is going to have a boost if I think the dollar's going higher here?
Look, I think there's a lot of stuff here at the moment. Is there correlation? You start looking at bits and pieces and you think, oh, you beauty is finally going in that direction. Then it's the correlate. You're halfway into it and doing your assessment, and then it's like, oh, you could be joking. That correlation is now just completely broken down. Look, what would you think? I mean, look at that retracement after a massive move after the Fed announcement last year. Seems like a year ago, but was it last week? It was last week, wasn't it? Last week. It's been a long weekend.
7 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Thursday morning.
Bloody early Thursday morning. Too early Thursday morning.
Yeah, 4 a.m. That's right. Remember that.
I get up to watch the golf on Sunday at 4 a.m. Why wouldn't I get up and trade the bloody breakout 4 a.m.? What a dipstick. Got my priorities right, haven't I?
Priorities, yeah.
Can I also bring your eye to the sentiment cycle, because this is something that Lewis found, and I think this is really interesting. But the sentiment cycle might suggest that gold is at a top rather than a continuation. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, yeah.
Is that the overt warning? Will it come back down and retest this level? Don't know.
I mean, what time frame are you on there?
This far left is 4 hourly, daily, weekly, monthly.
So let's have a look at it on the monthly.
I'll get my little doodad out the way. So here we are on the monthly. Let's make that a little bit bigger.
I think the daily is just as clear. Well,
you think so? But that daily's tanked quite a lot, isn't it?
As what, sorry?
Well, the only problem with the daily is that it doesn't bring in. You haven't got quite enough data there. We're not going back far enough. We're not really seeing that big push up. But maybe you're right, mate. Maybe this is a kind of a kind of micro view of it.
Yeah, look, I think if you consider that the double bottom, you know, back in February, March, produced what I would say is an aversion point, which is pretty much where the market took off, and now it's rolled over. So I think we're in the what's the second warning, overt warning stage.
Yeah. So
and just coming off that, if this is indeed a sentiment cycle, so we could expect a rally now, perhaps up to the trend line, perhaps up to the weekly pivot. Who knows? And then it'll come back down and match that low, one would think, if we are talking sentiment.
You know.
Well, maybe you need to wait for that to play out, before it happens.
Yeah. As I
How
said,
many
there's
days
not
have
a
we
lot
got
of-
left before the cycle? Before the what's it called? That thing? Timing shit you use? Cycle. What's
The
it
what?
called? Cycle, not timing. What's seasonality, for God's
Your
sake?
seasonality, first week, 5th of July. So
5th of July.
it's around
Okay.
the 5th of July, which
So
is
you got a
just
couple of
after
weeks for that to play out.
Yeah, still a couple of weeks, but it's still a bit of a pullback. But when you're looking at seasonals and you're looking at, it doesn't show you, it's not trying to tell you the velocity at which rate or the trend. You're trying to pick basically inflection points. And sometimes with gold, it means if you see this on a seasonal chart, it means sideways, even though it looks like you're going up a bit higher and a bit lower. It's, I don't know, Ash, did Ray explain that to you with Markets Made Clear seasonal charts? It's not necessarily the velocity of the move that you're looking at, you're just looking at a change in direction.
Yes, absolutely right.
Right, so you're not listening, and that's the thing with cycles. A cycle will show you, if you're looking at cyclicity, cycle patterns and things like that, cycles will show you inflection points and changes in direction. And the same with some of those seasonal charts, but the seasonals, what you're trying to do with that is trying to pick a trend based on the cycle chart that will tell you which direction that inflection point is leaning towards. I hope that made about as much sense as mud, but that's what the difference between a cycle, a chart showing cycles and a chart showing seasonality.
Yes.
Trend bias is the seasonals. The cycles are showing you inflection points.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a subtle difference, but it can make all the difference as far as you expecting it to go a lot further.
Yeah.
And it mightn't be that at all.
So really, what we're saying is that the seasonals are giving us our general bias that we
Trend bias.
So we're thinking it's going to go up, but we still need to see that chart turn before we kind of get the confirmation that that the seasonality is going to have a higher probability of playing out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's only a bias. It's only a it's just something to consider at the time, because the S&P, and that's what we said. It was interesting because I'd heard, we talked about this the other day. S&P, did it come early? Yeah, that was a really big rundown on what Larry Williams had been tracking with a 95% success rate, was this move here. But that is the third Monday of the month. And
how did that work out? Who won?
Third Monday of the month. And I just said, and it's just odd, because if we went, but as you said, Ash, last week, it is a precursor. It mightn't be on the exact date. Otherwise, that takes all the fun out of trading when you just get to plug in. Okay, just put that trade on. I will go away and then go to the ATM later, get my money. Do not.
Oh, I don't mind that. I don't mind it not being fun. It doesn't have to be fun if I can just go to an ATM and get some money. I'm all in.
Element of surprise. But that was the thing. You've got two conflicting. I mean, it's either going to go one way or the other. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So, but if it was going down on the third Monday of the month and everybody's going, gee, what happened? At least we had an understanding and could unravel that a little bit more. But at the moment, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Going back to gold.
Jeff, the Bulls won this week, Jeff.
Yeah, it's all right. I went to the chart. I answered my own question. I'm just being lazy.
Okay. Well, I think we got the picture. So really, we're in a little bit of a wait and see mode, but we quite like where gold is.
Quite like it. Quite like the levels, and we like neat and tidy, because we do neat and tidy with gold. It's just, you've got to understand what it is and where it's going. Like I said, I mean, I'm still keeping my eye on this big move. That's on the weekly chart. We've broken out, we've come back, we've retested on the 50 fib, not a big fib trader at all. But gee, you've got some interesting levels setting up on necklines, double bottoms. It's a real just nice, neat little technical hoo-ha here. And then we're looking for the seasonals and gold. Look, let's face it, gold's pretty good with seasonal biases. I like my seasonal biases with gold.
Yeah, well, it worked out well last year, didn't they? So
yeah, really well. So I will keep an eye on that and see how we go from there. But at the moment, we had the big move, consolidation. What a surprise! And just hang tight.
I've got a market which is absolutely fallen asleep. I think they must have some sort of narcolepsy or something, because it's just not waking up at all. I don't suspect much is going to happen in this session now. I'm not sure. I'm just checking whether there's a data point that I can grab onto, and it doesn't look like there is. But if there's not, then I think it's going to be US session before I get any kind of answer from the trade that I've currently got in. What do we got? Flash PMIs from Europe.
Yeah, they came out of France at 15:15.
Yeah, they're a little bit weaker, weren't
they?
That'll do. So German flash PMIs were pretty solid again, though. Gosh, the services PMIs were really good. Okay. So the euro number will probably be a good one. We got some from the UK as well, and then we got some from the States. Actually, there's quite a lot of stuff today. Crude oil inventories as well at 3:30. So and Lagarde is speaking at 5 o'clock. So there's quite a few bits and pieces in the market today, but that does suggest that it might be a little bit tepid until we clear past some of those news events. But the FTSE looks okay. It looks like it's going to kind of just hold where it is for now. So I'm not really interested in flipping direction just yet, and I'm probably just going to have to wait until either that news is done or we see the US session come in. How about you, Jeff? Anything to update us on?
Yes, indeed. I will do that right now. Both currency pairs that I was watching from the start of the week, as I said, not because they were runaways, but because they had stayed inside, looking for burglar trades. Did I just share my chart?
Yes,
I did. Okay. This is the first of them. It is Euro CAD. Now I'm, as you all know, have been since January 14th in this short, but that's a long way from here. I'm of the opinion that if we get a higher low here, we can now trade this back to the top of the range. Why would it now break the range? I have no idea. For that reason, I will still look to trade it long. So pick your poison. If you want an hourly chart, then fine. I can see it happening on the hourly chart. What you need to be very careful of is if you are entering in this area, just got to get some profit in the bank before you hit the pivots, right? So higher low in here looks good to me. Even if it bounces off the pivots, then comes down and gives you the higher low in this vicinity, then you're okay, but you've still got to take some profit there. And pound Swissy, as I said before, if this closes in 13 hours, 1 minute and 42 seconds, as it is now, I'll place an order short underneath it. But on the 4-hour chart, which closes in 1 hour, 1 minute and 33 seconds, as long as this is a bullish decisive bar, in other words, if the body is up here somewhere in this vicinity, then I will look to trade this short underneath it. Stop loss, probably just a little bit above DR2 there, taking first profit at the daily pivot, second profit at the other pivots, then wait for a lower high and add into it to trade it back to the bottom of the range. The trade that we took earlier hasn't yet triggered, and that is dollar Swissy. If you missed it, that's the order that I have in the market at the moment. And again, make sure you take your half off at TP1, move your stop loss to a safe place, and therefore you get a free trade out of this. If it does reverse, you'll get a good trade out of it anyway. This is where you make your money, not in this area, but this is where you make yourself safe in the market. That's how we like it. Stress less. That's me. And I might go and de-stress now with a whiskey.
time?
I cooked the chook earlier, but it'll wait. It'll wait. All right, Ash, are you done?
I'm all done, mate. Yes, I'm all done. Yeah, it looks like it might be a little bit of a tricky one when it comes down to some of the equities today. So be careful if you are trading equities. And we'll be back tomorrow after all the news events have been passed. Just for full disclosure, I am bullish on the FTSE, at least for a little bit of a move. Not much actually, but for a little bit of a move. Flash PMIs have just come out of Europe, and they are coming in at. Well, this is delayed. Okay, can't tell you what they're coming in at. Oh, here we go. Euro Flash PMI, manufacturing PMIs coming at 63.1, which is a half decent number.
The market's gone nuts, moved half a pip.
I was going to say, no, what?
And 58 actually for services as well. So there's another, looks like 7%, maybe a 7% rise on the point value there for services PMI. So more growth anyway coming out of Europe, which may well. I mean, what are we seeing with? Have you got a euro dollar up there, mate? Is that a euro dollar? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the inverted head and shoulders theme, that's another clear one, which has broken the neckline and retested the neckline.
Yeah, it has. I wouldn't be surprised to see that touch that weekly pivot and come back again, actually, to the dailies.
Yeah, I'd like to see one of two things. I'd like to see price either A, get back underneath here and retest that level, or get above here and retest that level.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Maybe nothing too clear on what we've just seen to suggest that we're on the move today, or at least at this stage.
Not yet,
manufacturing PMIs from the UK are later on, which I think could be a bit of a turning point for that pound yen, mate. Maybe we might see the pound yen start going back in our favour.
That means I have to work.
It does,
because I've got to manage my hedge. Then, if that's the case,
I'll just put the stop.
Don't want that.
Can you put the stop on break even on the hedge?
I can.
Yeah, well, and then you're done, mate. Go to bed.
That means I don't win.
Oh no! Well, it will do, because if it comes down and stops you out, that means you're going back in the favour of the original trade.
Yeah. We can do all that.
Oh, don't. Do not try and win on the hedge. That was the biggest mistake I made for ages. Oh, I've got some money. Just leave the hedge to do its job.
All right, mate.
Try to make money on a hedge.
Trust me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will leave you to do the technical stuff, mate. And we'll be back in the morning. As always, thank you to everybody for coming in. Thank you to A. Thank you to you, Jeff, for being my trader. Thank you to Angel. And we'll be back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow.
Thanks, A. Stay safe, whatever you do.
See Ash. Bye, everyone.
And bye-bye. I'll get it right one day.